There was an opportunity for me to have changed my situation for 2 years, but I couldn't see it because my attitude was so bad. And I became fascinated with that idea that you can't see that there's a $50,000 job right in front of you for 2 years. Like, what's the matter with you?
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners.
All right, Dave. So thanks for your patience. I told you some of that may be changing soon, but I appreciate you coming on the show. And you said you're in North Carolina where you got better weather. You know, the sun came out while we were waiting here. I said it was
Well,
raining
that's
2
good because
seconds
it's
ago.
cloudy
Yeah.
here.
Is that funny? But thanks for joining me on the show. And, you know, for all your podcasting that you do, we're going to share some great stuff, advice for people, and all the great stuff you're coaching people through now. So why don't we go back? I know we started talking off the mic, but, you know, tell me your original story and how you kind of got into this and, you know.
Yeah, so the story kind of starts when I was about 17. I quit high school. I just
Okay.
needed to get out. I wanted to work. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just needed to get out of Chicago. So my goal was to get out of there. It took me forever to get out, but I got married and had 2 kids relatively young. So I had no skills for anything. Like, I worked at a McDonald's for 4 years. I managed to figure out how to get a truck driver's license, and I could drive a forklift. I could work on a dock, basically.
Okay.
So that's what I was doing, and everything was going terribly wrong. We had no money.
Right.
I couldn't find a better job. We went bankrupt. Went through the whole thing. Car was repossessed. Went to bankruptcy. Left our apartment in the middle of the night because they wouldn't let us out of our lease, and we couldn't afford to pay the lease. Had to move 58 miles away in order to find a place that we could afford, and ended up there on food stamps. It was a terrible neighborhood, drug dealer next door, like the whole thing. It was just
This was kind of like a suburb of Chicago. We were still up in Illinois.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but in a bad one,
bad neighborhood,
in
right?
a bad one. So I was struggling like crazy. I'm like, because every day I'm coming home, I'm so frustrated about the man that I was, humiliated, like I did not feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, the problem is that you quit high school, right? You need to go back to school. I did end up getting my GED, but you need to go back to school. You need to go to college. You need to get some kind of an education to take care of your family. How am I going to do that? Well, I needed money and I needed time to do it, but I was working 6.5 days a week with still not enough
And
money.
a family had to pay your bills, right? Yeah.
Right. And this is way before the internet, right?
Right. Yeah.
So none of that was an option.
Right. You weren't doing an online store while you went to school.
No,
like that, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out other ways to make money, where nothing was panning out. So for 2 years, every day I kept thinking, how do I make more money? How do I make more money? And nothing's happening. It's just completely getting worse. One day I get to work, and I was reprimanded twice before I even punched in. I was a terrible employee. I really was, because I had a terrible attitude. I did not work for any kind of quality of work. I worked to get out of there as fast as I could because I hated what I did.
Yeah, of course.
And I got reprimanded. Then I had to go work the dock, and the guy that was supposed to be helping me didn't show up. So I was expected to do the work of 2 people in the same amount of time. And I worked for the largest food importer in the United States.
Okay. So you were on the dock where they were delivering this stuff to put them on a truck and
take it out, to go deliver it to a store, right?
So you were driving the truck and loading it up. Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't driving the truck at the time. All I was doing was loading these trucks.
Okay.
And the pallets would come down in a specific order to be loaded in a specific order, so that when the drivers did their deliveries, they would take off whatever's on the back of the truck. Anyway,
right.
I am not keeping up with anything. Pallets are falling over of food. I got to restack them, all this stuff. And as the night's going on, everything is just getting worse. About 2:00 in the morning, I'm pulling into the back of a truck with forklift with a huge pallet full of food, and the thing falls over. And I just started crying.
You had nights because that's when they needed the food of the stores in the morning for the day.
Right.
So,
yeah.
wow. It's tough.
Yeah, so I started around 6 o'clock at night, and I would get off about 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
something like that. And I had an hour drive both ways to work. But anyway, I just busted out crying.
Yeah.
I had completely collapsed emotionally in the back of this trailer, and I'm in there, and I don't know what to do. And I'm sitting there crying. I go, God, please show me what to do, because I have no idea how to turn this around. I'm trying everything that I can. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
Well,
a voice in my head said, David, change your attitude. Now, I've been telling this story for 30 years. Okay.
right.
It sounded like somebody was in that trailer with me. So
Yeah.
it was so powerful, that voice, that I regained my composure. I got back to work immediately, but I was thinking, what is this attitude thing? I had heard it since I was a kid, because I was not a good student in all my childhood.
Right.
Teacher would call father in, right? Tell dad, David's a pretty smart guy, but his attitude sucks. So if you could
Right.
fix that, he'd probably be a better
Yeah.
student.
Right.
I'd go home, and they would say, go to your room and stay there till the next report card, and your job is to study. You get no privileges. I could come out for dinner, but then go back in. On the weekends, nothing. I had to stay
Right.
in and
Yeah. So
study.
you hated it more, right?
I
That's
hated
like,
it more.
right.
Nobody showed me how to study.
Yeah.
Nobody checked to see, is there an
Right.
ADD
Yeah. In
issue
those
that
days.
wasn't even
Yeah.
known
We were
then.
young.
Right. Did I have a
Work
learning
harder, Dave.
disability, which I didn't, but nobody was
Right.
checking anything.
Yeah.
So, but I remember hearing the teacher say that I had a bad attitude. So I started thinking, probably for the first time, seriously, what is an attitude? And I didn't know. Like, if you were to say, David, give me the definition of an attitude, I couldn't tell you. I
Really?
had no idea what it is. No.
Okay.
So I start thinking, so what I did was, the guy that owned the company that started this very successful food import company, his story about how he started it was legendary. He started it in a suburb of Chicago out of his garage, and he built it into this huge conglomerate. And because he started in his garage, I thought I could relate to this guy in some way. Like
Okay.
I felt like we started in the same place.
Right.
So I said, what's the difference between this guy and myself?
Yeah.
And I came up with three things. Number one, he must have loved what he did, because he was able to see it all the way through to
Right.
some kind of success.
Yeah. You
Number
got to
two,
love it. It's going to be hard either way, right?
right.
Yeah.
Number two, he must have done a very good job, and I was not doing a good job. So I saw that there's two differences. I hate what I do,
Right. Because you
and I
hated
don't.
being there. Just want to get out, be done,
Exactly.
and leave. Right. Of course.
Exactly.
That's all normal. Expected.
Yeah. And the third thing, which was really bizarre to me, and I didn't understand the impact of this part till many years later,
Mm-hmm.
was that this guy would walk through. He had one of the first automated warehouses in the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
It was like 80% automated. Everybody else that was in there, they were called pickers. They were up in these huge racks, 4 stories in the air, and they would drop food on conveyor belts. It would come down and get wrapped, the whole thing. So he used to give tours to other CEOs all the time.
Show how they operated.
Yeah, they're all in their suits walking through. And this guy would never walk past an employee without patting him on the back, saying, how you doing? How's your family? Not a lot of time,
Right.
but a little. And I noticed this as a major difference, because I grew up in a mindset where successful people were the bad guy.
Right.
And you're working for the man, and they don't care about you. You're a number, right? And don't ever do more than you're paid to do. A large union mentality that I was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this guy's different, right? He seems to actually care. All I did was know that there was a conflict in what I was taught and what I was seeing. So I put those three things together. Act like you love what you do every job to the best of your ability, treat everybody with respect.
Now, how long did it take you to kind of realize those three principles? It didn't happen in the truck while you're crying at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes,
the whole thing.
Really? Yes, it did. Yes, that night. Before I left that night.
Great
That's
story.
what's going on in my head.
Okay.
So I said to myself, I am going to try this for 12 months and see if it makes any difference. Now, at the same time, there's another voice in my head going, you're an idiot, right? Like, that is not going to do anything to increase your income. these people hate you, all this
That's tough
mental
to overcome
chatter.
on your own. Yeah.
So I go home. The next day I get up and I'm headed to work, and I'm right back in the same, like, I hate this. This place sucks. This is awful.
Right.
And I go, no, I committed to do this. I am going to do this. In 30 days, my income tripled in
Why?
30 days. And I was so shocked now there's a whole story about what happened there,
Yeah.
but it happened.
Yeah.
And I was so shocked by it. And everybody was saying, you got lucky. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was making 62,000 a year in 30 days. And it was more money than anybody in my family had ever made, more money than anybody I personally knew had made. I came from just a middle class, working class suburb of Chicago. Like
Yeah.
you walk down the end of the street, you're in the west side of Chicago. That's where
Right.
I lived. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought, if I can do this, what else could I do?
Right.
I need to find out what I did. So I started what I did was I had to drive. At this point now, I switched companies, went to work for another company. It was 100 miles away from my house. So I had to drive 100 miles there, 100 miles home.
So you were
every
already
day.
driving an hour. So it's like twice as far almost.
Yes, absolutely. And so what I did was I got rid of the music in my car and I started listening to autobiographies and biographies. And then I found Tony Robbins' Personal Power tapes one night at 3 o'clock in the morning on an infomercial. And that led to other books. And I was just consuming as much as I could get my hands on, trying to put the pieces together to figure out what I did. And all at the same time, I dug down deep into this attitude change. And I decided that I was going to be the hardest worker that I possibly could. So I started with a new company 30 days later. My income immediately went up.
That's why it went up, because you switched companies?
But because I switched companies. But there's another part to this story. So just hang on 1 second. So my income went up, and then I was driving a truck for that company. And 7 years later, I was the only person who was ever promoted out of being a truck driver into management in that company. And I was in charge of expanding the company across the country.
Wow.
And that's when I decided to start my own business. Now, how did I get to this company is a fascinating story. So there was a guy by the name of Drew Batty. He lived in Whiting, Indiana, and he would come every Tuesday and every Thursday in a tanker truck that held diesel fuel. And what he would do was he would fill the trailers. They had refrigerators that ran up by diesel fuel because it was all food, right? So it was either you either have to, you got to cool them or you got to heat them, depending on, what season you're in Chicago. And then he would fill whatever the trucks exactly were that were going out the next day. My job was to have a list of what needed to be filled and then make sure that he filled them. Mm-hmm. So I get to know this guy over 2 years,
Yeah.
And this, like a week after I made this change, he shows up. We're having a conversation. He goes, "When are you going to get out of here?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm looking everywhere I can. I can't find anything to get out of here." I said, like, I would do anything as long as I could make some more money. He goes, "Why don't you come to work for us?" And immediately I go into the worst judgmental attitude that like my mind just flipped. And I'm like, "Oh, come on, dude." I go, "You're out there. First of all, you drive a bomb because it's a fuel truck." And I said to him, I go, "Dude, anybody ever die driving one of these?" He goes, "Yeah, a guy burned to death last year." I'm like, "Well, there you go. Why would I want to drive one of these things?" And I kept pushing him because I'm thinking, my mind, I'm very immature at the time, is thinking this guy's lower than I am on the success pole,
going
right?
backwards, right.
So after drilling him for about a half an hour,
the
last thing I said to him was, "Drew, besides all of this, how much could you possibly be making?" I'm thinking he's making less than me.
Right.
And he goes,
perspective, right? I mean, you're young, you're right.
Yeah, right.
And no world experience, right?
Right. He says to me, "Well, last year I made 50. And I'm like, "Get out of here. There's no way you made 50. He says, "Well, I'm coming next week. I'll bring you my pay stub. I'll show you." I said, "Okay, you do that." I did not believe him. I thought he was.
Now, this was what year, Dave?
This was 1993.
Okay. All right. 50
1993.
grand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he comes and he shows me the stub, and he wasn't lying. He was 100% right. And I went home, and I said, what's the worst drawback to making this move? And he said, well,
Besides death.
besides death, it's a union outfit. You're going to be at the bottom of seniority. He goes, the majority of our business is actually construction, filling on-site construction equipment. That's what
Sure.
it was when I went to work there. He said, but as soon as the ground freezes, they lay the bottom 20% of guys off from driving.
Right.
He said, and that can go from, he says, if we freeze in October and we don't thaw till May, it can be a very long winter, and you're not going to be working there long enough to collect unemployment. So So I said to myself, I went home, I talked with my wife, and I
So
said,
if you got laid off, you'd have no income. You'd have
no
no
income, no income,
unemployment.
no income. So so I went home, I talked to my wife, and
Your
I said,
kids, right?
yep, the whole 9 yards. And I
Yeah.
said, I know that I could go back and get a job on a dock. I said, this is a doorway out if it works, right? I'm going to give this a try.
This
And
was
I
what
went there,
month? What month was it?
October.
Oh, so you're
It was
just going
October.
into the winter. You could be
Yeah.
working for 30 days and get laid off.
Yeah, because he said to me, he said, normally we're not hiring this time of year. He said, but we just got this account with Union Pacific Railroad, and we had to put 2 drivers down there as emergency fuelers for locomotives. I didn't know what he was talking about at the time.
Right.
However, it because of that account, I didn't get laid off. I got the worst route in the company with the most overtime because nobody wanted it. And that's why I was making $62,000 or the equivalent of that every year.
Right, because you were doing the extra work.
Right. And here's what I didn't know. After all this study, I realized that because my attitude was so negative that I perceived the world through that attitude and I couldn't see opportunity. But when I
Right.
changed my attitude, I began to perceive things that were around me differently. And to my shock, there was an opportunity for me to have changed my situation for 2 years, but I couldn't see it because my attitude was so bad.
Right.
And I became fascinated with that idea that you can't see that there's a $50,000 job right in front of you for 2 years. Like, what's the matter with you?
Right.
But I got fascinated with the psychology. I got fascinated with the spiritual aspect of it. I got fascinated with the idea of business.
Yeah.
I was working for this company and I just maintained this attitude and hard work. And I started to get promoted. After 3 years in, I got promoted into management. That was the first guy ever in the history of the company, had been around for 60 years, to get promoted out of being a driver, because it was a rather large Irish family that owned it. Like, there were 5 siblings. Dad was turning it over to the kids. They
Right.
didn't need to bring anybody up, but because I
Right.
was doing such a great job, they were like, let's keep this guy
Right.
and bring him in. And so it was an interesting dynamic, but it worked. And by the time I was ready to leave, I had already opened another office in another city, which was the first time this ever happened
For them?
for them. And out of my suggestion, let's move this across the country, right? Nobody's doing this like we can. And I had gotten all kinds of accounts for them. I had turned Union Pacific Railroad from an emergency account to a full-time fueling account in Chicago, which changed the financial dynamic of our company like you wouldn't
Mhm.
believe, because they paid on time. And most contractors don't pay on time. We were always
Yeah, they're
chasing
always
people for
stealing
money.
from Peter to pay Paul. Sure.
Yeah. So it was like having a revolving financial account to be able to pay the bills. Anyway, long story short, I met my mentor in 1986. I started studying with him, doing everything that he told me to do. And then in 1999, I walked away from that company and I started the business.
Well, you said you met him in 1980. You must have met him in 1996.
Yeah, 96. Did I say
Right.
86? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
because you said you
96.
went to the company in 93.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's
yeah, no,
time
96.
travel.
96.
Yeah.
I apologize. And then in 1999, I walked away and I started my own company, doing seminars and teaching people how to be more successful. Now, just like you said when we were off air, there were people that I was doing it like for free. People were coming up to me and going, "How are you doing this?"
Right.
And I would talk to them and I'd be like, "Do this, do this, do this." And if they did it, their life would change. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so cool. And
Yeah.
I was helping people make more money than they had ever made before, right? So I was also fascinated with the idea that you could instantly increase your income in a very short period of time. Plus, the guy that I worked with showed me even more about that idea. And I started with that idea. I'm going to help business owners and people that want to make a lot of money. I'm going to show them how to increase their income rapidly. And I did it, and it worked. Everybody that
Yeah.
did what I said worked.
Yeah.
There were people that didn't, and I wouldn't coach them, but the people that did, it all worked. And that was
Yeah.
26 years ago. This October will be 26 years.
Yeah, Dave, I think, and you're a testament to this. And I've had people on the show, and same way. When I come out of law school, I was in sales, and I would like Nightingale Conant. I would buy all the tapes and listen
Yeah.
to Tony Robbins, and in those days, Brian Tracy and Zig
Yes.
Ziglar and all those guys, right?
Jim
I
Rohn,
was like,
all of them.
yeah, they were cassette tape. My kids don't even know what cassette tapes are. You remember those books, the plastic books you would get,
Yeah.
and you pull the tapes out and flip them?
Yep.
Because I felt the same way. I was on the road all the time. I should turn my car into a little university. And I should learn as much as I could, because they didn't teach any of that stuff, by the way. Even if you did get a college degree, they don't teach any of that stuff in
Nope.
college, right? Not at all. But I think we as people, as human beings, in terms of relationships, we attract things, right? And I think you were in such a bad place and you had such a bad attitude in your mind in terms of your mindset that you were literally attracting bad things to your life, even though you wanted to get rid of them. Like It does,
Totally.
like people that have bad attitudes, they have all these bad things happen. They're like, they don't understand, because you don't repel things, you attract them. So when you started changing your attitude, people started noticing you, you started noticing other things. And it does. It's not some sort of special science. It's not science. It is really, I know, and I'm sure you find this too. People, oh, come on, Dave. I mean, what, I'm going to change my attitude? My life's going to change? Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's things happening, like you said, that are right in front of your face, and you just don't see it. It's not like things magically appeared in your life. It was already there.
It was already there.
You just
That
weren't
was the
open to
craziest thing about it, Mitch.
Yeah.
It was already there. That's
Right.
what's fast. I'm like, what else is already there?
Right, that you're not noticing.
Like, if I could not see this, and all I've been doing for 2 years is trying to figure out how do I increase my income. What the hell else is already there that I
Right.
don't even see?
That you lost
And
2 years looking for, right?
I lost 2 years.
Yeah,
For
but you're a
sure.
lucky guy, right? Because you made that transformation. You committed that to yourself. You tried it. It worked for you. You're like, you had this epiphany or eye-opening experience where you saw these. That's a lot of people that wander through life,
Yeah.
and they don't get it, and they don't believe what you're saying, and they're, Dave, you don't know how hard it is. Well, actually, I mean, I came up with an upper middle class family in New Jersey. I don't have a lot of struggles per se. You can say to them, no, I do know what it's like.
Yeah.
I have been as down and out, as bottomed out as you possibly could be. And you had responsibilities. It wasn't like you were single and you just could manage living in your friend's car. You had kids and a wife and,
Yes.
things to deal with. So you were kind of forced to either you give up or you figure another way to change it. And you weren't giving up, right?
I
You had the
wasn't
kids
giving
and
up.
everything. Of
No
course
way.
not.
I was not going to give up.
Of course
And
not.
I do think, I will tell you this though. I really believe that had I been single, I don't think I'd have done it. I think
Right, because you didn't have the what's the word? You didn't have the reason to do it. You didn't have the
Yeah.
responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Or you had no choice. Yeah, those
Right.
are the
When
people
I
that really
saw us
succeed,
go to the store and put one thing down and pick up something else because the price difference, but one thing was better than the other and we couldn't afford it, it just tore
Right.
me apart.
Yeah.
And then to stand there at the counter and have to give them the card because we were on food stamps, and get the government
Embarrassing.
cheese and peanut butter.
Sure.
It was like, I'm thinking to myself, what kind of person have you turned into? Where did this come from? Because I was raised middle class, not upper middle class, working class,
Yeah.
but not ever in that situation. Not ever.
Right. You didn't go with your mom
No.
and use food stamps, right?
No, never.
Yeah. But you know what? I always look at things and I say, okay, where are you now, right? And if you didn't go through that fire, would you be here doing what you're doing, enjoying your life, helping so many people? Maybe, probably not, right?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably
All right,
not.
why don't we do this? Let's take a quick commercial break, which, like I said, I don't know if that's making it into the episode or not. And then let's come back. I want to hear, what was your first success story where somebody came to you and you said, and they were just, Dave, I don't know what to do. And we could talk about that. And then we'll get into advice for people. I'm sure you have even more advice than the stuff that you first figured out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right? So
Go ahead, do it.
Commercial. Okay.
Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it.
All right, Dave. So I love the name of your company, or I don't know if it's your website, Life is Now.
Yeah, that's the name of the
Successful
company.
Mind podcast. I mean, a lot of this is, I get from a lot of people like, oh, mind over matter. That's such BS. And they never read things like The Secret and all these other motivational stuff that people transform their life. And I think that that's the one, if there's a secret in life, it's that there is no secrets. It's just how you approach things.
Right. There's no secrets, only blind spots.
Blind spots, right? Because people will notice you and you will notice things. And it just, it's not that it's not there. You're just blind to it,
Right.
Yes. So you remember your first successful client, let's call him? I don't know if you're working for him for free or not, but whatever.
Well, this is an interesting path, because one of the things that I was dabbling in on the side while I was working for this petroleum company was I was involved in multi-level marketing.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And I always wanted to start my own business. So I got a little involved in that. That's also how I met my mentor, who was Bob
Proctor.
The
Amways of the business.
Like the Amways, yeah, but this was a little bit
different company.
But one of the speakers that was relatively training that company was Bob Proctor, who was in The Secret. He became my mentor.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And Bob, I don't know him personally, but I know who he is for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, he was a great guy. My life wouldn't be the same without him. Anyway, so when I started my business, I first went to help network marketers. I was helping them increase their business. But I learned a lot from him. He said to me, go to the top. Don't start from the bottom and go up. He goes, go to the top, help them, and then they'll introduce you to all kinds of people. So there was this couple that I knew from being in the company, and his wife was stuck. They were what you called it for that company. They were Royal Diamonds. They were the top tier of the company. They were making, I don't know, $175,000 a month, something like that, right? And that's in the 90s. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So they've been doing this for a while in early, probably, right?
Yeah.
High in the pyramid, right?
Right. And well, actually, they were diamonds. The problem was that she was stuck in her head about going to the Royal Diamond. So I got a hold of them, and I said, and I was talking to the husband, and he said, "You think you can help her?" I said, "I know I can help her." I said,
and these aren't people, Dave, that are unsuccessful. I mean, they're still making really good money every month.
They're making great money, right?
Yeah,
but they were still stuck.
Yeah.
No, so I worked with her. 30 days later, she broke through and increased her income by, I think it was $25,000 a month. So that was like my first big success, right? Then I had a guy who I met through, he wasn't in network marketing, but I met him through somebody in network marketing. And he was doing big land deals in the United States. And he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, I've got these opportunities to do these hundreds of millions of dollar land deals with the Chinese. They want to build these great big malls or whatever." He goes, "But every time I do something with them, it falls apart." Well, it just so happened that when I was in the petroleum industry, I worked with some Chinese folks that had businesses, and I realized that they did do business differently. They had,
for sure,
a very different way of doing things. So I said, "Yeah, I'll help you." So I started working with him, and he went from doing land deals that were like 300,000, 500 to not 300,000. He was doing land deals that were much smaller. And then all of a sudden he's doing $100 million deals with land after I showed him what to do. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy went to 200 million this year in land deals, right? And I'm only charging like $5,000, right? For this, like
Definitely
something's
not
wrong
enough.
here, right?
Right.
So that's when things changed. When I saw that I could really be beneficial over several people, that
Right.
really changed what it was that they were doing. Then my stock went up, and I went
Now,
over a million pretty quick.
how did he find you? So I understand how the other guy and his wife found you because you were in the company and working with people and
I
whatever.
think his wife or sister or something was in the company and told him
Ah,
about me, like something
got
like
it.
that. It was a relation thing.
Got it. Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And was it just that I don't want you to, give away the store here, right? People should be working with you, but was it just that you changed his attitude and his mind and the way he saw
Yes.
things? That was it.
Yeah. So here's what the problem was.
Yeah.
He had never experienced anybody that he was working with buying property be so worried about the little details. And the Chinese were like, if the period was in the wrong
Like
place,
engineers, right? Very
right,
detailed.
100%. So
Yeah.
now what would happen with him is he would get offended by it, and then he would
Ah,
sabotage the deal.
right. Because they're like, well, we don't want to work with this guy. We don't
Right,
like his
right.
attitude.
And
Right.
I said, look, this is just a culture thing, the way that they do things. This is not personal. This is not. They're not pointing out everything that you're doing wrong, which is what he felt they were doing.
Right.
He said that in their mind, this needed to be correct because it's a legal contract, so it needs to be, this way. And when I got him to see that, he then backed off on because he would like rage at people,
Yeah. Well,
and
clearly that's a problem.
and
Right.
then he landed his first deal and it was 100 million. And
There you go.
he's like, you are not going to believe this. And I think it was just within a couple of months
Yeah.
that it
Just by
happened,
being more open and
by being more open
focusing on other.
and not taking things personally.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
now, what about the woman that you helped move up to Royal Diamond? What was her at? What was her problem?
her issue was that she felt that if she got to the top, her father would not love her.
Oh,
And
geez. Well,
as
that's
silly,
deep seated issues, right?
it's deep seated issues, but I'll tell you something 26 years I've been in this industry working with entrepreneurs, business people. It's the number one thing that sabotages most businesses that I've seen relationship issues.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm not
Relationship issues.
surprised. Right. It's not always fear of success. It's fear
No,
of somebody not wanting to talk to you because you're
right,
successful to leave your friends behind.
right.
And sometimes your friends are like sabotaging you because they don't want you to be successful.
Yeah.
You'll leave
And
them and stuff.
right. And a lot of the people that I've worked with are they're the first timers in their genealogy, right? They're the first ones to become successful, the first ones to step out
It's a
of the
trend,
middle class. Yeah.
common. Yeah.
And they think, oh, my parents and family, they're all going to be excited for me, but they're making 50 grand a year and now I'm making 2 million a year. And they
Right.
don't they're like, it gets really sticky for
Right.
a lot
Right.
of people.
Yeah. Plus, I think at that level, when you're like the first to kind of step out of the mold, the other people are, even if they love you, they're worried for you. Like they're like, oh, this is not going to work out for
Right.
Dave. We got to protect him, so he shouldn't be doing this shit. Dave,
Too
stop it with
risky.
your attitude. Right?
Yeah.
It
Well,
ain't going to happen.
here's a story.
Okay.
A guy so when I was living in the bad apartment building, there was a guy that I met that lived a few apartments over from me. He introduced himself one day. He says, I see you got fishing equipment in your car. You like to fish? I said, yeah. He said, well, let's go fishing sometime. I said, okay, that sounds good. So we developed a friendship. We would go fishing. He drove a garbage truck. Okay. And when I started to change, he came up to me one day. He says, what are you doing? He said, can you show me how to do this?
Because he's basically a union truck driver too, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I said, yeah, I can. I said, first, let me get you some books to start reading. So I went and bought the books, right? This is like when you go to like Walden's Books,
When
right?
they had real
No
bookstores.
Amazon.
There are not many of them left.
Yeah.
There's Barnes and Noble near me. So
there you go. So I go get this guy 3-4 books and I give them to him. And then like a week later, His wife shows up at my front door, banging on the door. I open it. I'm like, hey, what's going on? She took the books and sat them right down on the stoop, and she says to me, "Don't you ever tell him that he can be anything besides a garbage man. He's a garbage man now. He'll always be a garbage man. He can't be anything else. Never feed him this crap again." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And
Right.
that was the end of the friendship.
Because she was afraid that he should keep providing for his family. He won't be able to if you're going to screw him up. And he
Yep,
couldn't talk to you after that. She wouldn't let him talk to
right.
you.
And I have seen a
Well, they're
lot of
living in the
people.
building
I've
they're
seen.
living.
That's why I said relationships can be some of the toughest things when it comes to success, because in the beginning, if you're a middle class person and you get together with a spouse or a partner or something, you're coming together for a reason at that time in your life. But
Right.
if neither one of you have experienced success, and then you decide, hey, let's see what we can do with our life. If one person doesn't want to do that, there's tremendous pushback,
Right.
and so we help people a lot with that,
Right.
right?
Yeah. If you're willing to risk your marriage and your relationship and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Honestly.
Otherwise, though, what happens is a person, they stop going after what they desire, and they settle for what they don't want, and then they're in a relationship and they're miserable, and
Right.
nothing
We
works
are
out. But
human
they
beings that
sacrifice a
are
life.
afraid. We like comfort as bad as it feels. We're afraid of what the other side of the fence is. No matter what it is, it could be wonderful. We're wired to not take those risks. We
That's right.
really are. Until they meet somebody like you who says, get out of the plane. I've done it. You're not going, and then
Right.
eventually some of them take the risk with you. Not a lot, not enough, I'm sure.
Well,
Right?
I mean, I wish everybody would do it, because I think everybody is here for a purpose. I don't think everybody should own a business. I think there are
No,
people that
but
have
they
a
can
purpose.
better their lives.
That's right. They can. And they can make a
Yeah.
conscious choice on which job they're actually doing in their life.
Right. Live more fulfilled. Yeah, it's hard,
100%.
but the 80-20 rule. You reach 20% of the 80, and then you probably only help 20% of the 20%. So
Right. It,
because you
it
got
is
to
a
find
small
the people.
percentage. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Now I'm always into like sharing books. So what were the books that you wanted him to read?
I
Remember?
wanted him. Yeah. So I can tell you what they were. The
Yeah.
first book was Think and Grow Rich.
Right, of course.
The second book was Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell.
Working, I haven't heard of that one. Working with the Law.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my top favorite books that I recommend.
Okay.
The other one was You Too Can Be Prosperous by Robert Russell.
Robert Russell. Okay.
And fourth one was God Works Through Faith by Robert Russell.
So you like his stuff?
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm always looking for. I like to consume things, and I read some books for pleasure, but I find like I don't like my wife criticizes me all the time. She likes to listen to music. I find that a wasted exercise. Like if I'm driving in the car, I want to listen to a business podcast, a motivational podcast,
Same.
even something about history or whatever's going on in the world. I want keep my. It's just like the way I am. I don't listen to my show that often. I listen to other people's
Yeah, I never listen
stuff.
to mine.
Yeah, right. Isn't that weird? Right. We don't. It's true. So, all right. So can we talk a little bit about like if you're listening to this and you feel stuck and you don't like your job or you feel that your business is stuck, what's the couple of things like pointers that you just to get people to think about what it is that you do and how you help people?
Yes. So the number one question for every human being needs to be, what do I really want? And it sounds simple, but it is far from simple, because most
Right.
people are raised with the idea that you can't have what you want.
No.
So what most people are picking is what's acceptable to others in their life. They're not going after what they really want. I remember when my mentor first, he didn't suggest it to me directly. I was in a seminar, and he said, the most important question you'll ever ask and answer for yourself is, what do you really want? He goes, and it might take you a year of thinking to actually get to the conclusion of what that actually is. And I
Right.
thought, I thought to myself, that's crazy. That like I know exactly what I want. I had no idea at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. So when I work with somebody, or if I'm speaking somewhere, I might be speaking on a stage someplace or on somebody's podcast or whatever,
Yeah.
what I say is, here's the thing. if you show me what you really want, I can show you how to get it. It doesn't matter what it is. The key, right? Like if there was a secret, the secret would be you have to acknowledge what it is that is true in your heart's desire. Like, what is it that you truly want? And a lot of people will come back to me and say, I hear what you're saying, and I don't know. I'm not sure what I want.
Right. Because they're affected by their situation. They,
100% affected by
right.
their situation. So
Yeah.
the exercise that I give them is this. Acknowledge what it is that you currently want in your life that you're denying yourself. It doesn't matter what the reason is. I don't care what the reason is. You don't have the money. You don't have the time. Your spouse is going to be upset. You put it off, whatever. It could be, what do you want? I want a purse. I want a new set of wheels for my car. I want new fishing gear. I don't care what it is.
Right.
If you're denying it, you have to start saying yes to yourself. Because once you train yourself to start saying yes, your subconscious mind will let you know what the thing is that you really want. Because the subconscious mind works in a way where it only thinks it's protecting you, right? Its number one job is
right.
to
It's
keep
really
you
not.
alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were denied what you want as a kid over and over again, which most kids are, it stops torturing you with, this is what I desire, right? You end up developing a new value, which is settling for something.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, but when
That's
you
what we
open
do.
that door again, it will come to the surface because it's there. It's not dead and gone. It's there. It's just a little dormant.
Yeah. You just got to drop that baggage that's clogging up all of your, it's getting in the way of you actually coming to the conclusion that this is really what you want.
Exactly.
I would guess, and look, I'm sure if I went through, and I'll promise you this, I'll go through that exercise because, I'm sure there's more things in my life that I want that I never achieved. But I'm sure for the average adult, it gets more and more difficult, right? Because you have children that rely on you and you have a spouse and you have a mortgage and you have these things that you've built this life that you may feel a little trapped in if you were to make too many change. Your mind says you can't change that because you still got this and you got
Right.
this person to take care of and they need you here. And I'm sure
Yeah.
it's hard, right?
Well, one of the things that you said at the start of the show was you talked about people coming out of college, professionals, and having no idea how to run a business because they don't teach you that in school.
Right.
The other thing they don't teach you is how to make money.
Not even
So
close.
I teach people how to earn money, how to make money, how to make a
Yeah.
lot of money. And it's almost all of it is psychological, right?
Right.
Here's what I believe, and I truly believe this. Everybody on the planet has the same amount of money. And I'll tell you why. Because every dollar that you earn and that I earn futuristically is in the hands of somebody else.
You're just trying to get a hold of it.
We're just trying to get a hold of it. And that's a skill set that anybody can learn. It's a mindset and a skill set. If you learn that mindset and skill set, you will never want for money again or anything else because you'll know exactly how to get it no matter what the amount is, and you'll be able to go buy whatever it is that you want. But if you keep denying yourself over and over again the things that you want, you'll never go after what you truly want in life.
Right. Of course. So now since we're talking about tips and tricks, and this is a business podcast, an entrepreneurial podcast, what are the kind of things that are like clogging people up when it comes from a business standpoint? And I would assume a lot of it is growth. They're looking to grow their business. They're looking to make more money. And so what are the kind of things standing in their way? Is it the same or is it a little bit different?
It's the same and a little different. Two things right off the bat. They don't think they're worth as much as they should be charging for what it is that they're doing.
Very common in the professions is very common. People don't charge,
and they don't ask
services. They don't
ask. They're not aggressive in how they ask. There's only one thing that moves money in the world, and that's sales.
Yeah.
Right? Money is a tool. Sales moves it. Even if you say to me, David, would you loan me $20? And I say, yeah, sure, Mitch. That's a sale. You sold me. Okay.
Right.
It's an agreement. If you learn sales, if you master it, which is relatively easy to do, and you get over your fear of rejection,
right,
over your fear of, I could go out of business or I'll make a mistake or whatever, then you won't have that problem anymore. But those are the first two things. Like with tons of people, I help them fix those two things and away they go in their business. And the other thing is that if you master money, just about everything else in your business is easy to fix.
Right. Because
because
now you have the confidence and
yeah,
you're dealing with
I
people
got the money
differently.
to hire people. I got the money to buy a building.
Right.
I got the money to buy inventory. I got the money to market. All
Right.
the other things that you need to do require money. And it becomes easier if you have a master control of that first in your business.
Yeah. I always say money can't buy happiness, but it can get you pretty close,
It-
you
I
know,
yes, yes,
because you can deal with a lot of
yes.
issues and a lot of hardships, but have a different attitude about it when you don't have the financial stress about, you
Right.
know, whatever happened in your life. And, it's just a bump in the road type of thing.
Most people wake up every day and the first thing they think about is their problems. We call them
Yeah,
problem first
of
thinkers
course. That's
instead
right.
of how do I want to live this day
Right.
so that it's the
And
most
that's
magnificent
a
day.
that's a decision,
It's a
right? A
absolutely it's a
conscious
decision.
decision.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I've done it. I've woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about sometimes it's not all my problems, right? I got problems for clients. So I'm thinking about what problems I got to deal with today. And sometimes I just got to meditate a little bit and just put it down. Like I'll deal with them when I'm in the office. I don't need to think about them for 3 hours till I get in.
Absolutely.
That's absurd. But people don't think about it that way. The
Nope.
stuff we do as humans is just nuts,
It
but
is
we
nuts.
do it.
We're the only form of life on this planet that makes ourselves crazy.
Right, because we can think freely. All other life doesn't do that. They don't have the
Right?
ability to think and make decisions. All right, so I was just going to ask you something else. What is you made a comment about what business owners do, and I was going to ask you about how how most people. Well, I guess you really answered the question about their attitude towards what they're coming into. I think that your comment about, I used to call it your biggest check. Like, when you're young coming out of school, you're afraid to be writing a check or receive a check that's too big because you've never
Yeah.
seen a big one. And then it grows over time.
Yep.
And I find that a lot with professionals where they just, it's not that they don't think that they should be charging more for what they do, right? They've been doing this for, let's say, 30 years. They have a lot of experience, right? You should be charged. But the day that I say, listen, you're only charging, let's say $350 an hour. That's a low rate for a lawyer, right? At
Right.
least in this part of the country. I'm a business lawyer, so I'm more in the 500 to 600 range. And I have colleagues of mine that are twice that because they're in New York City. They're dealing with large corporations, whatever,
Yeah.
more complicated stuff. When I get my colleagues to go from 300 to 325 an hour, 350 an hour, their whole life changes. They have this whole attitude and they start feeling better about themselves. And I think that it's innate that we don't, because we don't progress
Right.
over time. We don't realize that we're stuck there and uncomfortable about it. And nobody, you know what? And I think some of it's self-imposed because I have found that when I've raised my prices and I said, listen, nobody bats an eye,
Nobody
you
bats
know?
an eye. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
I
Nope.
had a guy catch up with me for maybe it was a will or a document or whatever. This is like 12 years later. I hadn't heard from the guy. He never did whatever it was I proposed. Comes back. He says, well, I think we go to do it now. I give him a price. He goes, my God, that's a lot of money. You were charging me this then. I go, that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that you gotta, and I think it does two things, right? If you're comfortable about what you charge and what you're asking for, you start finding a group of people to do business with you that appreciate that
Right.
and that are at a different level. And I think that's why the whole thing kind of snowballs into the changes that you are instilling in people's lives. So what's the best way for people to interact with you, to start to learn about what you do, to connect with you?
Easiest
A
way,
podcast, of
yeah,
course.
is the podcast, the Successful Mind podcast. It's fantastic. It's great. It doesn't cost you anything. You can listen to it all you want. And we have something called the Quantum Leap Blueprint, which is completely free. And I know you'll put the link in the drop down for it. The thing is this. What it does is that Quantum Leap Blueprint helps you get your mind in order so that you could actually make a giant leap in your life just
Mm-hmm.
by going through it. It's not anything that's difficult, but it asks you the right questions for you to think about how you're positioned to do it, because everybody has the ability to make a quantum leap in their life and their business. They just don't know how to think correctly around it. And here's another thing. It's like it is so ingrained in our mind, hard work, that most people, and I was guilty of this too, we literally strategize things and make them more difficult than they need to be. Once you
Yeah.
realize your mind is actually doing that so that you can feel better about yourself, the
Right.
idea is, how can I accomplish this and make it easy and fun?
Right.
Because that way is also exists,
Right.
right? So that's what the Quantum Leap
Because you're
Blueprint does.
making, yeah. Tia asked me, can we offer something to the
Yeah,
list? I said, sure. So that's what you're talking about.
yeah, Quantum Leap
Yeah.
Blueprint.
Yeah. It just blows my mind. And it makes me feel good when, like, because my kids, that, they're my daughter, especially my older one, she, she'll be like, Dad, I found this podcast. I'm listening to this or that. She finds all this motivational stuff. She wants to listen to it. She's into mindset and the whole thing, and has a very good attitude about everything. And, look, is there stress in life? Yeah. Especially when you're younger and you haven't
Oh, totally.
experienced it
Yeah,
before. Right. But there's so much stuff out there. You and I aren't the only guys talking about this stuff,
that's right.
that it blows my mind that people don't say to themselves, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to try and learn. And there's so much free stuff that you can learn and, listen to. I don't care if it's Deepak Chopra or Proctor or any of the other
Right,
ones. It's there. And
right.
if anybody's listening and they feel stuck and they don't know what to do first, sure, listen to Dave's podcast and connect with him and see. But if you're down and out, you got no money, your business is struggling, just start filling your head with better things.
Yep.
You can do it. You got a phone now. We didn't have this, you and I, growing up. We didn't have
No,
this
that's how
device where
we
you could get
started,
access
just
to
by,
anything.
yeah, just being curious and like,
Yeah.
somebody is successful. What are they doing?
Right. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Like I always tell younger people, find people that are successful, doing what you want to do, and just have. My dad, he passed away about 2 years ago. He was a very successful salesman. He was always very self-obedient. He was very good at that kind of stuff. Just came natural to him. He's the one who turned me on to all of this motivational stuff and things like that. And he used to tell me, and when I got started out of law school, like I said, no skills, right? They don't teach you anything except maybe how to research the law, but that's probably not
right.
completely true. And he had a huge network of people. He would connect me with a new guy, more successful than him always, to have a cup of coffee with every month.
Wow.
And 2 years later, obviously, I'm a different person. I had different perspectives on all these people that are successful and how they were successful. But
What a
I
gift
try and
that
tell
was.
people and I try and tell people that meet with somebody. Everybody wants to help, right? All the successful people. If you said, Dave, I need your help. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Who would say no to that? And some people are
Right.
busy, but they'll fit you in if you're in the same network or community or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that's why I love this conversation and connecting and hearing your story and you sharing with other people. If there's one person that goes out and listens to a tape or attends a seminar or asks somebody to have a cup of coffee, then our discussion was all worth it,
Yep. Absolutely. That's why the podcast is out there. It's for anybody. We put up the best information out there. If they take it and do it, they don't ever need to contact me at all. They could just listen to the podcast and it'll help them become successful.
Right. Yeah. You don't have a shortage of people to change their
No.
lives.
Nope.
Right. That's never going to happen. So.
No.
Well, Dave, I can't thank you enough on a Friday afternoon that I said started getting nicer here. Hopefully it's nicer in North Carolina. And we'll put the link in the show notes for the blueprint to the podcast. I'll mention the books. I'm going to have to ask you some names. I try to write everything down and your bio and everything. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, spending time with me, and hopefully we changed a few lives today.
Absolutely. Thank you much. It was an honor to be here.
All right. Stick around for a few minutes.
Okay.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, mindhackerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.